Hello everybody, today we are going to talk about the namespaces. Look at this name. What is the namespace? Namespace is a space where we can create names. Okay, so we can create classes, variables with some names, right? We can create label for them. And what is cool about the namespaces is that we can create in one space, for example, a variable with name A, and in the second namespace, which is different, we can create a variable with the same name. And both the variables won't know about each other, and we can use both of them easily in our program. So when something like that is used, for example, I am a programmer and right now I will use some kind, I will create a class that will be called, for example, person, right? And, there might be another programmer that will create the project and he will call an other object like that. He will call it a person. He will call that class a person, right? And then, there will be problem because we can't have two the same names like that, and then we will need to rename in all of the places that it was used the names. But with the help of namespace we don't need to worry about it. Look, even now we are having some namespace here. This is the local space, and when I create here a variable A and I will assign here 50 and then I will create in the global space variable A and I will assign here 20, this program will compile because here is a local space and this is the global space. And look, right now when I do something like that, we will get on the output the 50 because A will be coming from the local space. But we still can get access to that value here. We can just use the scope operator, which is 2 columns. Now when I build in the program, as you can see here we have the 20 value. So we can get still access to the global value. However, we can't do something like that, right? Because that two guys are now the same. So we can create a namespace. How to create a namespace? In order to create namespace, we type namespace. Then we are naming our namespace. For example, I will call it big A. And here I will have our A. And then I will create another namespace B. And here we'll have that variable. Now when I compile it, as you can see, he's trying to get something from here, but it will work because that guy here is now in another namespace than this, and we can get access to that guy there because we can do something like that. A scope A. So I'm getting the value from, I'm getting the value from here, right? So 20. If I want the value from here, I will do something like that. As you can see, it is working fine. Let's call that guy a bit different now. And for example, I would like to use everything what is in the namespace A. Then I will just use something like that, using namespace A. And now I will have access to that guys here without even using the scope operator. As you can see here we have 20 now, but I can still get to the place here, for example like that. As you can see, it is working fine. So when you are creating a project, it is a good idea to create your project in a namespace. So when somebody will use your programs, your classes, he will just use your namespace and it will not collide with his names in his program if any of them would repeat, right? because he can then choose which guy he wants to use in his program. If you want to use the variable from his program or your program. Okay. That's all in the lesson, but I would like to train a bit in this lesson because it's the last lesson. Let's imagine a situation like that. Here's the end line, right? And it is used in the namespace std. If I don't use the namespace std, you will notice that this program won't run. We have to use the std here, namespace, like that and like that. So it means that we can't create an object that will be called endLine. But hey, I would like to create an object that would be called endLine. And this endLine would do, for example, 3 enters, not 1. I want my own endLine that would be here. So how to do that? How to do something like that? Well, for example, we can create our own namespace. Like that. Namespace. And then my space, I will call it right now. And here I will create a class that I can call, for example, my new line. And I will create an object that I will call my new line and line. So I want to use here right now something like that. My space. So I'm getting here and then end line from my space here, right? I don't want to use the end line from the std, but from my space. I have to also make it work. Right now, when I build and run that program, it's not working, of course. Well, and here, this is text, something like that. As you can see, it's not working because we didn't overload that operator here. And well, I would like to tell you how to overload things like that. So let's create string in the private section that we will call, for example, text. And in the public section, we'll create well, let's maybe tab it that way. We'll create a constructor, my new line. Let's do it in line constructor. We have to assign something to our text. Well, let's assign something what will be coming from here. So string text. Like that. We can assign here also the default value. Let's assign here 3 enters. So by default, that thing here will achieve 3 enters. That \n is representing enter sign. And now we will want to just when somebody use the end line here, we want to show the text here, right? So right now we can't use something like that text because it is in the private section. We have to create a function. Let's call this function toString, and it will return the string, and we will return just the text. So right now we should be able to do something like that. As you can see, we can't use string here because string is used from std, so we would need to add everywhere std, or we can just use the namespace std inside that namespace. As you can see, we have now here 3 enters, right? We can add some text here. You will notice that it is working fine. So we can easily send to the output what is inside here. But hey, that's nothing new. I want to achieve something like that. I want to do something like that. When I see endLine, I want to see on the output the thing from here. How to do something like that? Well, we have to overload that operator here. Because as you can see, it's saying us no match for operator to angle brackets lower one, right? How to do that? Well, you know, in the IO stream there is an object, O stream and I stream. I stream is input stream, O stream is output stream. Right now here we are using the output stream. Here, everywhere where we can see something like that, we are returning the output stream. So if I want to send it to the output, that thing here, we need to return the output stream. So we call here something like output stream, and then we'll return the reference to that output stream. Okay? Then we'll create a function that will overload the operator like that, right? This one. And then between the parentheses, we will take as an argument two guys. Well, on the left side we have what? We have the cout here, right? This thing is released what? Is it an O stream, right? So we call it something like that. On the right hand, we have what? We want to send this thing, for example, or this thing, right? And this thing is our object that we want to send out. So we'll call it what? We'll call it just my new line, and we'll get the reference of that object here. And now we'll just return. We need to return the O stream, right? So we'll return out object to string. So we are just doing the same thing like we did it here, but we are just returning. You are returning that thing, right? We are returning that thing here. That thing with the cout is being returned here. And then, because of that, as you can see, we can write it faster. So right now, you can write with the function like that, we can write something to the output very easily, just by using the name of your object, right? You don't need to use the function like toString. You don't need to use the function like get, for example, text. You can just send name of your object and everything will work fine. Well, we can also make it a bit shorter. We can say something like using namespace my space, right? And now we won't need even to do something like that. As you can see, well, looks like it's not working because we are using the names with std here, right? So he's trying to get endline from here and he's trying to get it from the std. So we could just do something like that to repair it. Just use before each of guy from std, something like that. And now, as you can see, it is working fine. We can of course still get to the end line from the std place. That way we have just one end line. That way we have our 3 end lines because we specified it like it here. We can of course change it a bit now. For example, I want more of them, and there will be more of them. Everything works fine. Okay, that's all in the lesson. Thank you very much.